time now to tackle the headline, and today we're looking at the players who are in a little bit of limbo this time of year, guys. They're awaiting that desperately sought clarity on their future, Ralphie. It feels like there's more than ever, but I'm not making this up, am I? There are.
Absolutely there are, and it's because we have a 2024 Super Draft. We love a Super Draft,
yes,
of course. We know that there have been only a handful over the last 25 years. So what does that matter? Because clubs out there who would normally take 2 or 3 picks are looking at taking 4 and 5. They love it. There's probably 50 or 55 really quality candidates in this draft. So players out there that we'll talk about in a moment, they potentially will be pushed out, and then clubs who would normally trade for them, they're saying to themselves, we'll get him as a delisted free agent. There's just so many quality players. There's talls, there's smalls, there's ruckman, there's half-backs. And so, as a result, these guys are unfortunately going to have to wait for another month before they work out whether they're on the list or on the scrap heap.
Well, there's quite a few at the Pies, so kick us off there. Charlie Dean, I was at training the day that it was announced he was getting his first game. The group absolutely went off. He was clearly a much-loved figure, but he might not have much luck here. No,
so it was a VFL success story. And then, of course, as soon as he came into Collingwood, unfortunately, he had foot surgery eventually on both feet. So he played 8 games. Nathan Murphy was the, of course, medical retirement. And so he played an adequate role there. I think they'd love to get another fullback in. Mark Keane, they lucked out on him. He stayed at Adelaide there. So I think when they look at players potentially like Lewis Young or maybe Denver Granger Barras, he's probably not much of an upgrade on Charlie. So they're scouring the market for another fullback to allow Jeremy Howe and Darcy Moore to play that intercept role. Haven't found one yet. And so that's the saviour right now. Charlie Dean will be hoping they don't bring in another fullback because then he will be out.
What about his Collingwood mate, Lockie Sullivan? He came into it in the back half of the season.
Yeah, I thought he had a good sort of 4 or 5 weeks there in the middle to the back end of the season. He's another VFL success for Lockie Sullivan. He was one of the few guys to actually hit from the summer period. They signed 4 guys over summer, Collingwood. We thought they're going to rebuild their midfield here, and it just didn't happen. Lockie Sullivan was probably the only one that really got going. The Sullivan camp thinks there's a real chance here. They're pretty positive about where things are headed, but they're stuck in limbo, as that's why we're talking about him on this program. But I think the arrows are pointing in the right direction for Lockie Sullivan.
Kruger and McInnes are 2 Pies we've talked about a lot at this desk. Where are they at?
So Kruger, kicked multiple goals a couple of times, and then he got a concussion, poorly timed, and then Dan McStay came into the side. Reece McInnes, he kicked 13 too, and he was often chosen over Ash Johnson. So both of them waiting. Again, the coach in Craig McRae said at the end of round 24, after that 12-win season and a couple of draws, he said, we're desperate for a key forward. They don't grow on trees. I wouldn't imagine they've got the cap space for someone like Tom Lynch, who Richmond wouldn't let go anyway. So again, they'll be looking for the market there, but right now they're looking for players like Houston and Perryman. It doesn't seem like they're going to find that key forward. So maybe one of those players survives, and one of them's kicked more goals in McInnes, but Kruger can play ruck. So it's a really tough decision for Collingwood.
Yeah, up Royal Parade, of course, Carlton still smarting after that finals loss. They had their exit interviews last week. Sam Durden's one that's really piqued my interest over the last few weeks. He strikes me as the ultimate limbo player in this scenario, doesn't he? Because he's, depending on who comes in and who goes out. Nick Haynes, obviously in the Blues sights, he's out of GWS, and seems like for Durden it's going to, worry about whether Lewis Young stays, what impact that has on him. He's really, that typical fringe player for the Blues, isn't he? It's unfortunate. Yeah,
it's really challenging. Noah Cumberland's another one. So, look, at Richmond now... I think he was young. I think he was impetuous, and I think he's grown up a lot. There's some real tough love there from Damien Hardwick. Speaking to those close to him, they say he's a different person now. Now, he was ready to play football, but he's in that position there where Dustin Martin and Shea Bolton were both in that spot. So now he gets his chance to shine.
But now they're not.
Exactly. They're gone. Well, we imagine that Shea will go as well as Dusty, but... whether he gets a chance at it. So, look, with players like Judson Clark coming back from an ACL, Mike Kelty, Lafau, he's a bit of a different player, but still, plays as that second or third forward. I think he feels like, just give me the chance and I'll be there. But, again, he's waiting too.
Yeah, he had that big patch in 2022, didn't he, Ruff? He kicked 19 goals that year, and we thought this guy's a real player. He had a bit of spark about him, and then it just seemed to extinguish for him, unfortunately. Another teammate of his that's on this list is Camden McIntosh, 2-time flag winner. Every single week, it seems, for the past, 6-7 years, his name is on the magnet, is on the wing. He's running up and down that wing almost better than anybody else in the last decade. He rarely loses that position, yet he seems to always find himself in this position here at the end of the season. He's always on the fringe waiting. He's played 65 games the last 3 years. As we said, a 2-time flag winner. I don't don't think Richmond can afford to lose all the experience. If all these guys we're talking about go out the door, they have to have somebody who knows how to play that wing role, can teach the young kids how to do that. I think he'd be a perfect candidate to stay. And if he does get moved on by Richmond, I think there's a lot of clubs out there that need a winger, a specialised winger to run up and down the flanks.
My sources who watch Richmond a lot, i.e. me, I think he's a really good player. You know, he kicks it well. He's, as you say, he's, you know, runs hard up and back, doesn't make mistakes. He's a good clubman. He's pretty quirky, which sometimes you need, especially given the, you know, the travails ahead. Yeah, I'd be really, really careful about moving him on, because I just think he's a quality player who doesn't cost you much and you know, always delivers.
And he looks older than he is, I think. He's 30 years old. Camden, I'm sorry for saying that, but he's always had sort of the bald haircut. But he's only 30, Camden, so I think he has quite a bit of footy left in him.
Yeah, it defies him a little bit, but he held that hub together from all reports, building homemade soccer goals and various trips to Bunnings. So culturally, as you say, those players are worth their weight in gold. The Hollywood named Hawk, Denver Granger Barras. It sounds like something straight off the red carpet, doesn't it? Where's he at for the Hawks?
Yeah, they got him at pick 6 in the 2020 draft. We know that was a COVID draft. There's been probably a litany of failures across that draft. Players just haven't been able to come on because they never had the exposed form. So he's not really quick enough to play on those athletic forwards, and he's not nearly tall enough and confident enough to play as an interceptor. So he's a little bit in between. They've tried him everywhere. They've tried him forward. Then he had, I think it was foot surgery that put him out for 12 weeks. He's in limbo. I'd imagine that there's some chance that West Coast will be looking for tools with Tom Barras coming out, so they don't want him to be a central element of that deal, but I reckon that they have some interest in him there. Yeah, it's just a tough 2020 draft. All those guys got great chances as first-round picks, but sometimes when you just don't see their exposed form, you make mistakes. Other clubs are saying, it's just that draft. And so some of those have got multiple players they've already delisted. It's tough, but maybe Denver Granger Barras is not going to make it at AFL level.
Fantastic work from you guys. A very big few weeks ahead from you with all things trade. That's it from us. We'll see you on the Midweek Tackle.